These are guys, some of whom have built businesses themselves within Rodan and Fields, and others of which are power partners or somehow partnered together with their spouse who's built an amazing business. So let me tell you a little bit about Rodan and Fields before we kick this off and get to our personal stories. So in 2002, the doctors Katie Rodan and Kathy Fields launched Rodan and Fields. They went into high-end department stores and quickly became one of the top sellers in that channel. Recognizing that department stores were on the decline, they actually bought back Rodan and Fields in 2007 and launched it 10 years ago. From a standing start 10 years ago to this past year, they have become the #1 skincare brand in North America, surpassing $1.5 billion in sales last year. So it's been an unbelievable run, and they've done that by going through the consultant channel, of which we are all a part. So how do they do this? What is the product? It's dermatological grade skincare that works. It's incredibly effective, and that's what the entire business is built upon. We're only in 3 countries right now: the United States, Canada, and Australia. But we took in a strategic investment. This was announced just a couple of weeks ago that will enable us to continue the global expansion as well as shoring up the foundations of the entire company, making the company better today than ever before. So if you're thinking about this, take a look at it closely. TPG was the global private equity firm that invested in the company. So the lineup tonight is awesome. We've got doctors, we have police officers, executives, entrepreneurs. As I mentioned, 2 of these guys have built the business themselves, and the rest of us partnered together with our spouses in some capacity. We're going to be sharing with you our personal stories of what that's all about. And I had the privilege of going first. So as I said, my name is Matt Wilson, and I had this goal in life to reach financial freedom. Ever since I was a teenager and figured out what that was, I wanted that. And I thought it was going to be through me building a career, piling up a bunch of cash and buying real estate, buying businesses, and essentially creating passive income streams that I could live on. So I began down that path. With a slight detour, I served 7 years as an intelligence officer in the US Navy. I went to Harvard Business School and got my MBA. And then I was working in private equity, and I was starting to get those bonuses, starting to look at how to learn investing in commercial real estate transactions, investing in private businesses, because I wanted to figure out what it would be like to have financial freedom for my family so that we could live life on our own terms. Well, about 5 years ago, my wife, Natalie Flowers, came home, and she told me about this lunch meeting that she had, and she was going to join this business called Rodan and Fields, and that she'd be able to match my income within 2 years and retire me. Of course, in my wisdom and business sense, I looked at her and kind of chuckled and said, "Oh, that's cute," right? Which, if you know my wife, that just like fired her up all that much more. Like, "No, you don't get it. This is a big deal. Like, why don't you look into it?" So I did. And I looked at the Harvard Business School case study. I looked in the alumni database because the chairman went to Harvard Business School. And I realized, okay, this is a legitimate business. They're getting good traction. And my wife was fired up about it. So I decided from day 2, I was going to get out of the way and let her build this business. True to her word, within 2 years, she was able to match my income. A little over 4 years in, I stepped away from my role as the chief financial officer of a financial technology company to join her full-time in the business. And now we live life on our own terms. What does that mean? I drop my kid off to kindergarten every morning. I spent about the last 6 months training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu until I accumulated more injuries in the past 6 months than all of my prior life combined. Decided I had to stop that. Going to Bible school, really working on my faith, and we've been taking fun trips. And it was all because she saw this business for what it was and jumped in. And then I got behind her and supported her. Most recently, I've been even more active, but up until that time, she was really the lead on that. So what I saw, though, is that this was a powerful vehicle for financial freedom. And you're going to hear a lot about that. It's also an opportunity to build some extra income if you're interested. But the thing that I've seen that has really captivated me the most, and that I guess I would say also filled up my heart the most, was seeing the change in my wife by participating in this business. The growth that she had in becoming this powerful businesswoman that was transforming the lives of thousands of other women and really coming into her own. And that's one of the reasons why I'm excited to join in it with her and building. It's going to help me develop my presentation skills and help me transform others. And there's no other business like that where you actually get to work with people in that capacity and you draw more out of them and help them become better people. So yeah, look at it for the extra income, look at it for what it could do for your family, but also think about it from a perspective of the transformation that it could mean for your life. So with that, I am now going to turn it over to Taylor Guest to share with you his story. Take it away, Taylor.
All right. Appreciate it, Matt. Thanks for that intro. Hey, my name's Taylor Guest, and I got started with my wife. Actually started this business back in 2011. And the thing is that if you know my wife, right, she just absolutely, when she decides to do something, she's going to do it. And so I think I was probably traveling on a trip. I came home and she says, hey, look, this is something I'm excited about doing and I want to do it. And I said, okay, fantastic, phenomenal, let's do it. Had pretty low expectations, honestly. You know my wife, she loves to buy shoes. And I thought if this could pay for that, I'd be happy. So super low expectations, but I did have one concern. And here's what that concern was, is that, my wife gets really excited about things when they're new and they're fresh and they're interesting. But then I thought, when things got hard, right, when things got a little difficult, when things slowed down, would she continue? Would she continue long enough so that she could find some success that she was looking for? And so I said, hey, look, give it 12 months and just give it 12 months, right? And the thing is that if at the end of the 12 months, you hate what you're doing, you feel like you're hitting your head against a brick wall, stop, go do something else or don't do anything. But give it 12 months and be unconditionally committed for 12 months. And then let's see what happens. And so she did, and she took off. And I was her biggest cheerleader. I was cheering her on. I was excited. And the thing is that I was running sales for an international company. We were growing our products down in Latin America, and then we were selling them in Asia. And so, as you can imagine, running sales was gone from home probably more than my wife liked, certainly. And more as my kids got older, I was not missing some things that I didn't want to miss. And so she posed a question to me. I can't remember when, this was quite a ways back, but she said, listen, would you join me in business? And I thought, do you want to stay married? I mean, this sounds like a terrible idea. Us working together, same place. I mean, I don't know about this. Well, the thing is that I started thinking about what that would look like. And could I bring my skill set here? Could as Matt talked about, developing people and helping people to grow and develop into leadership. Here's what I saw, is that the global skincare market, and again, I didn't know anything about skincare, but the global skincare market was over 100 billion and growing every single year. Like I've been in industries that are in stagnant, right, or in decline. It's not a fun place to be, right? Competition, fighting over a smaller piece every single year. This is actually growing. That seems like a fun place to play and build a business. Okay, so the market was really intriguing to me, even though I didn't really understand, but I kind of saw a dollar's a dollar no matter what you're selling. And so the market appealed to me. The other thing is that I'd been involved in traditional products-based business before, from sourcing to logistics to marketing and sales and accounting and customer service and order fulfillment, like the whole gamut. And she wasn't doing all of those things, right? She was doing a very small part of that. And she was really being a brand ambassador and marketing the product. And that was one of my favorite parts, right, of a business. And so to be able to be a part of that. And then, the last thing is just kind of the way that we distributed the products, right? Like people fast forward past commercials these days, right? But they do get referrals from people they know, like, and trust, and they buy products and services from people that they know, like, and trust. And that's how she was kind of distributing that product, and that appealed to me. And I thought, this makes sense. And so I jumped in, and in June of 2014, we started doing this together. We were laughing, I think just a couple of days ago about, this is coming on 4 years. It feels like 4 minutes. And this has been a lot of fun. And like Matt mentioned, one of the things that I really appreciate about this business is that watching people come in that have maybe no confidence in themselves or what they're doing, and to watch those folks find success. And if we can just be a really small part of that, that's all I need. So it's really been a pretty fulfilling. So I'm going to turn it over to Gabriel Sedlak, a guy that actually built this business himself. So go ahead and take that away.
All right. Hey, can you hear me, guys? Did I pop up all right? Is it good? Yep.
All right. Hey, how are you? Taylor, thank you. You guys, it's an honor working with you guys on this call because, it's my great hope that those of you that have gotten on this call today, by the time you're done, you allow our ceiling to be your floor. That when we get off this call, you say, you know what? Put my head down, turn off the opinions of people, find out why I want this thing, and allow Rodan and Fields to be an engine that you strap onto your back to propel you to whatever that is. So I'll give you a quick background on me. I have been in the well, when I got the phone call, I'm so thankful to John and Natalia Yasko. We were buddies, knew each other from church, and John said, hey man, you got a minute, I want to pitch you something. So I stepped out of the coffee shop and he said, the Proactive Doctors have a new anti-aging company. What do you think? And at that time, I'd been in the industry 18 years, meaning direct sales. So I started doing my little mental analytics and I said, you know what, John, if 50% of this is true, and he said some other things, I said, we're gonna make a fortune. So first point I wanna make, I came in this for the money. Skincare was not my initial MO. I didn't have an emotional affinity to it. For me, it was purely a leveraging model, all right? Because for me, the reason that I was so passionate, we came out of the gate, and I've been in since the launch of the company and we helped pioneer it, and it's great stories. We could sit over coffee and talk for days on all the stories and the backstories. But for me, I had prayed for years to meet somebody like my wife. I find this woman, and then what? We do this American dream thing where you're 70 hours a week away from your spouse. You give her an emotional peck on the cheek a token peck on the cheek in the morning, peck on the cheek at night. You put the kids in daycare. You get bigger and bigger things and bigger gated communities. And for me, that's not the American dream that I signed up for. The American dream is to find good soil that you can take your potential with the right vehicle, which is critical. You got to have the right vehicle. You could be the most talented guy in the world. Without the right vehicle or the right soil, you're going to have your harvest is going to be challenged. And I just said, you know what, this is going to be what I bring you home with. So housing market had crashed. We were pregnant with our second little boy, and I had a 3-year-old in tow. And I came parading in the office and I said, babe, I'm going to quit the other direct sales company I'm in. I'm going to jump into this. And she just kind of said, she shut off. She goes, I can't handle this right now. Can you go get a real job? Right? And I said, no, I won't get a real job. I'll bring you home in less than a year. Well, we did that. By the end of the first year, we had a residual 6-figure income. And then before that, not too long after that, we were pulling in 6 figures a month. Again, this is my story. Results vary. I don't know what's in your heart, what kind of fire and passion you have. My opinions are, and my story is mine. It's not that of corporate or anybody else. Please refer to the income disclosure of Rodan & Fields and the IDS. But I'm telling you this, you are either being leveraged or you have leverage. What does that mean? You are either working for somebody else's dreams. That's fine, as long as your dreams are being fulfilled in the process. The real estate industry understands leverage. The brokers do. The music industry understands it. Write a song, get paid forever. That's the dream. The investment world understands it. Franchises, you name the business model, points of distribution, whether online or through associates, equal exponential product sales by default. And there again, would you rather have 100% of your efforts or a few percent of thousands of people's efforts? The latter is the correct answer. And so for me, it was about being with my wife, being present, being with my kids, holding them by the cheeks and saying, yes, baby, we can make Legos for hours. I can break away, do a conference call here and there. But guess what? I don't ever miss a moment. That's what this thing's about. The products I fell in love with quickly, my wife would have eaten the products, truly. But together, she ended up joining me, and we brought her home after a little while there after that first year, and we haven't looked back, guys. And I brought her home 9 years ago after I'd been in a year. This is the power of this thing. That ain't your mama's home-based business, right? You are the 800-pound gorilla when you get involved in Rodan & Fields. When you walk through the door, smile and point. They ain't on trial. They have unprecedented credibility. The products work. The business model is off the chart. We are not the number one skincare brand across North America by accident. So find out how Rodan & Fields can be a propellant, whatever that is, guys. You want to feed kids in Rwanda. You want to get out of debt. You want to pay off your credit cards. You need just a little bit of lift. And if we're talking about lifestyle, and if it scares you, I mean, the guys on this call and some of the leaders of the company, I mean, it's probably the GDP of a small nation. I mean, the stuff that has happened is astonishing. in these last 10 years, but I'm here to tell you this. This industry is about the multitude having that lift in their life. What do you need to change? Whose dreams are you fulfilling at the sacrifice of your own? You don't get time back, guys. There is no better opportunity in the direct sales world right now than Rodan and Fields. Their credibility is unprecedented, as I said. And if you don't tell everybody you know about this, somebody else is going to tell them before you do. The last guy in this can make more than the first guy. That's proven out. Again, there's not time on this call to say that, but it is a far better time. In the beginning, it was very personality dependent. We had a lot of pioneering to do. There was a lot of groundwork that had to be laid. Now it is system dependent. So for that, it is the best time, as we then, the goal is to go global and be number one, the number one skincare brand on the globe. That is worth turning off the noise, jumping in, be coachable, do something to set your family free. And it's with great honor that now I'm going to introduce Dr. John Newstead. And man, he's got it, guys. So open your ears real wide. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Gabe, for that great introduction. And you're always, I love your energy. You're so great to follow. My story's different, more like some of the other guys in that my wife started this first. She was in 2009. She brought this home. We were both a two-income family at the time. I'm a doctor by training. I had my medical practice. She's a lawyer by training and was a PR executive. And we were a two-income family, but both of our incomes were fee for service. We knew that if we didn't work, we didn't get paid. And if we wanted to earn more income, we'd have to work more hours. To expand my medical clinic, would have to hire more people, enter into long-term real estate contracts, and we would end up getting busier and busier and have less time for ourselves, for each other, for our children, and the things we really loved. And at that time, we had our son was 3 years old, and our daughter was 6 months old at the time. And we desperately wanted a different way of making a living, a way of earning income and making a living that allowed us to have a life also. So we knew that finding something that could provide residual income independent of us and our physical labor was really important. I started a dietary supplement company, and that took multiple six figures to get going. I'd started that a couple of years before Romy had found Rodan and Fields. And when she brought it home and we started looking at the opportunity, we knew that these doctors who had created Proactive already had a global brand that they were going to leverage into their new company. And we looked at the business model, and I looked at the business model, and it became very quickly apparent that unlike what I did, where I had to create all the product formulations, I had to figure out the manufacturing, I had to figure out the distribution, the back-end technical system for merchant processing, the customer service. I had to make sure complying with all FDA and FTC regulations. All of that I had to figure out, and the marketing and the branding. With Rodan and Fields, we got to partner with a corporate dream team who did all that for us. And the doctors helped formulate, and their scientists helped formulate, and they created all of that infrastructure. So all Romy needed to do was truly say yes. And for the cost of less than $1,000 in the US and a little more than $1,000 in Canada now, that all she had to do was start talking to people and plug into the system. And it allowed us to create income that was independent of our time, that was independent of, with my medical clinic, I could only help people who walked through my four walls of my clinic. And with Rodan and Fields, what she was able to do was create, and what you would be able to do is create profit centers anywhere you know people with skin, or they know people with the skin in the US, Canada, and Australia, and soon other countries as we expand around the world. So for us, because of the low barrier entry in terms of the cost And really that it was a system that she just had to plug into. It became quickly apparent that this was definitely worth trying. And within a year, she was earning more than she was in her 15-year award-winning PR career. After 2.5 years, I was really burnt out with clinical medicine and also building the supplement company. I was busy, and I told her I did not want to do clinical medicine anymore. And we looked at each other and realized we didn't need the income from that. It allowed me to walk away and close my clinical practice and really dedicate myself to things that I love and I'm more passionate about. Building my dietary supplement company, spending time with our kids. Now I do all pro bono medical consulting work. And I jumped in a few years ago and started building it side by side with her. And some of the guys have talked about the incredible benefits of this gig. And yes, the financial impact that can have on our lives and our kids' lives and our future cannot be underestimated. But the reality is now, I don't miss anything for our kids. Neither one of us do. Our kids have an event at school. One of them calls, we get a call from the nurse. Somebody's sick. It's not a problem. We don't have to check in with anybody. We have total flexibility in our time and our schedule. We own our time, we own our schedule. And it's all because of this incredible vehicle and opportunity, but it doesn't fall from the sky. Romy was coachable and consistent. She treated this like a business and she worked it every day like a business. And it can be whatever anybody wants. If people just want to have, somebody wants to start it just to have a little extra money for vacation money or to pay their mortgage, it can grow into that. If they want to grow it into a business that can provide significant residual income, like guys on this call have done and their wives have done, our wives have done, then it can do that too. I really recommend that you think about what this can mean to you, what the risk is financially, which is very little, and that if you think that this can be something that could benefit you in your life and your family, that you give it a try. You jump in and you support your wife if she's building it primarily like I did. It's an at-home business. So there's a huge role for partners at home to free up their wives' time to recruit and to train and to grow the business, or jump in alongside your wife and do it like some of the guys have done too. It's a phenomenal business. And one of the best things as well as the time freedom is the incredible relationships that we've made. I mean, all the guys on this call I've got to know personally. They're great guys and their families that I would have never met, never been introduced before. And our life and our world is just that much better because of this business. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to someone who I've really gotten to know well over the years and enjoyed their family and watching their girls as they grow up, Josh Cormany.
All right, thank you, John. And thank you, Stacy, for putting this together, and to all the guys on the line. This is super cool. I'm glad to be a part of this this panel. So my story's, I guess, a little bit different than everybody's so far. Like John, I joined my wife after we got started in Rodan and Fields, but previous to that, I was a mortgage banker. So I had always been in sales and actually did really well. I loved mortgage banking. I started in 2001, late 2001. So I kind of got to see the whole spectrum of that industry. I got to see sort of high interest rates when I got going. And then I saw the go-go days when if you fogged a mirror, you could get a loan. And then I saw the crash, of course, that sent everybody spinning sideways. And it was 2009 when Romy Neustadt actually walked into our living room on a Sunday and introduced us to the business, actually introduced Nicole to the business. At the time in 2009, we had already seen the crash in the housing market. Believe it or not, my business was really strong because interest rates dropped to zero. So we were refinancing the whole world. I had tons of volume and a lot of income. However, I knew the writing on the wall meant things were going to change, and boy, did it ever. Once the regulations started to seep in, once the oversight started to seep into our industry, it got more and more challenging, and I became pretty upset going to work every day. I always said to myself, hey, if I have a hard job, but I'm making good money. It's going to be just fine. Well, that was the case, but it was way more difficult to show up to work every day and disappoint everybody, disappoint my staff, disappoint my customers because of the state of the industry. So this was in 2009, and in 2010 is when really things started to get, more difficult for us. But Nicole, my wife, when she said yes to this business, I was one of the guys that was immediately supportive of her. And I guess I just naturally am that way. I didn't think much about Rodan and Fields. I didn't know much about Rodan and Fields. I certainly didn't know much about skincare, but I wanted to support her because she was excited. And I saw how quickly she was focused. She really believed in what she was doing. And that started to, I started to pay attention to that, and it started to really raise my awareness to what was going on. So slowly I started to help her. I started to coach her a little bit, not really on selling. I remember one day I was like sitting down with the compensation plan at Rodan and Fields, and this was probably in early 2010. And I'm like, hey, babe, if we can just do this and get, 4 of these over here and 6 of these over here and do this month, we're going to maximize how this compensation plan works. And I said, are you listening to me? Babe, can you hear? And she looked at me and she goes, I don't have time for this. It's not income producing activity. And so I immediately knew that I needed to back my truck up and kind of sit down and watch her, but coach her from a different perspective with support, emotional support. So I started to help out around the house. I started to create more time for her because I didn't know what Rodan and Fields would be, but I knew that she was psyched about this. And frankly, in the back of my head, I probably did worry that my business was going sideways. Well, after 21 months that we started Rodan and Fields, we had fully replaced my income. And on March 31st of 2011, I walked in and I quit my mortgage banking job because I could. We had that decision, just like Gabe's wife. He was able to get her out of that miserable industry quickly. And I shouldn't say miserable. I had a lot of fun doing it. It was just extremely challenging. And I know she was in it at the same time I was, and things got really hard. But because we had Rodan and Fields, I was able to make that decision. And I jumped in with both feet with her. I took some of what I learned in my years of being in sales, coaching salespeople, leading a sales team. I've been always on commission since 2001. So I really felt like I could add a lot to what we did. And that's what I started to do. I started to kind of create my own story and my own voice in this to help Nicole, and us grow this business as much as we could. And if you fast forward to today, what is it, 2018 already? We've since moved from Montana to Scottsdale, Arizona. I never in a million years dreamed that we would be in this position financially and with the kind of lifestyle that we have today. And boy, am I thankful. It was Monday, and what did I do? I got to hang out with my buddies and play in a charity golf tournament all afternoon, and show up and see all my buddies on the computer tonight. So it's been a super huge blessing. But the 3 things that I've learned along the way that I want all the people who might be considering this, and even for people who are in this but want to, potentially become more supportive, the 3 things I've learned, number 1 is, like Gabe said, we did not become number 1 in the US by accident. These products are very good. We don't have the customer base size that we do because our products are okay. We hang our hat and our success on how good our products are, no question. The other part of that, number 2, is our products are consumable. So what does that mean? You put it on your face, it goes down the drain, your bottle becomes empty, you order more, and you start to build residual income. And I can tell everybody who's out there who has not yet experienced what it's like to get paid on residual income, it's awesome. It's a wonderful way to get paid. So the third thing too that I learned this straight from our chairman, Amnon Rodan, because and for me, this is kind of where this was probably the best conversation I've ever had in my time at Rodan and Fields. We were in Hawaii. It was 2011. I had just left my mortgage job. I was nervous, right? I was like, I'm leaving the W-2 world. I'm leaving the corporate cradle. We're throwing all of our eggs into this basket that's unknown to us and frankly unknown to everybody else in the United States. And I was talking to Amnon, and I had the ability to ask him a question. I said, why are you doing this? You had massive success with Proactive. You guys were number 1 in retail. Why did you decide to pull out and launch into the direct selling channel? And he said, first of all, we can reach more people and change more skin through this channel. But more importantly than that, this channel allows us to really leave behind a legacy. We can help people. We can help people become different in their own skin. We can help people become different with their families, different with their financial freedom. We can help people excel in things that they want to do. And we really feel like we want to leave behind a legacy, and this business and this channel is going to allow us to do that. So that night in 2011, I knew without a doubt that I was with the right company and with the right people who had the right culture, and they were after the right things. You know, you can be with a company who has great products, but they might have, you know, cruddy culture or poor morals. But I knew right away that I was in the right spot. So for me, it was at that point, you know, all systems go. And I think right now, you know, the position that we're in with the company is probably as good as it's ever been, especially with the new partnership we had, like Matt said in the beginning. It's a very exciting time. It's not easy to go from 0 to $1.5 billion in revenue in 10 years. You know, that's a hard thing to keep up with. So we've got some good expertise coming in. And for anybody who's out there who might be considering this, I can just tell you right now that it's a wonderful place to be. We have the most amazing products for skin. Skincare is a huge business, like Taylor mentioned, and it's a great time to be a part of Rodan and Fields. So I really appreciate the opportunity to see everybody on the computer, to be a part of this panel. There's a massive talent here. I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of the guys speak. So I'm going to throw it over now to my good buddy, who I've gotten to know over the years as well, Rick Krause. Take it away, Rick.
Thank you, Josh. Wow. Can you hear me okay? Thumbs up? All right, cool. So I am super pumped to be here. I'm honored to be here. And, you know, guys, I've known these guys for a long time, and I respect them tremendously. And what is amazing is every time I hear their stories, I'm still like super pumped and I'm super inspired. And hopefully you are as well. And the reason that we're here is to help you guys. This is why we're here. And you've seen everybody that has spoken so far, all their lives have been changed. My life has been changed, and we're here to help you change your life as well. That's why we're here. And maybe, you know, Josh's story resonated with you. Maybe Gabe's story resonated with you. Maybe mine will as well. But that actually really doesn't matter. What matters is taking all this information and deciding how Rodan and Fields is going to impact your life. Write your own story with Rodan and Fields. So that being said, we've been involved with Rodan and Fields for about 9 years. And so I'll start back in 2008. You guys all remember that time. So I owned the largest semiconductor manufacturer's rep in the Rocky Mountains at the time. My wife was in luxury real estate, and we had several homes. We built homes as well, and the crash hit. And basically, guys, we lost everything that we had invested in real estate over a decade. We lost it that year. And it was the most trying financial, emotional time of our lives. And I can tell you that I wouldn't change a thing. And I can tell you that because that's when Kim discovered Rodan and Fields in early 2009. And interestingly enough, a gentleman out of Washington called her, cold call, which is crazy. He called her, told her about the doctors, told her about their vision, about the products, about the company. Kim listened, and she made a decision to start. And I will be eternally grateful that she listened. She took that call, she listened, and she started with Rodan and Fields because it's changed our lives forever. So basically, she started alongside her real estate career. She started a few hours a week. And as her customer base started to grow, and as her partnerships started to grow, and as the income started to grow, then she put more time into it. And that's how this business works. So she put more time into it. Fast forward 9 months, and she came to me and she said, Rick, I want to hang up my real estate license and I want to work Rodan and Fields full time. And she's 9 months into it. And to be honest, guys, I wasn't really ready for that. We were still kind of digging out of our financial hole. But after discussion, we realized that she really should do that. She should focus. My company was doing real well, and she should focus on Rodan and Fields because we believed in the doctors and their vision. We really felt this was going to go somewhere. So fast forward then to 2012, our bank accounts are full again. We're whole. And she came to me and basically showed me her monthly check. And at that point in time, She was out earning me from my 25-year career in electronics. Absolutely amazing, part-time, around our family schedule, unbelievable. And that was a shifting point for us, because we realized then that our life could be completely different. I realized that I didn't need to be gone all the time, that I didn't need to leave early in the morning and come home late at night. And even when I was home physically, I wasn't connected emotionally or mentally with my family, and that was killing me. And I'll tell you, the cruel joke about traditional business, and you guys all know this, is that we work so hard to provide for our families, and then we never get to see them. And that is not the way it should be, and that's not the way it has to be. So basically, I sold my business in January of 2014, and I started working side by side with Kim ever since. And I'll tell you guys that in my 30-year career of being a corporate employee, of running a successful semiconductor business, of real estate development, most recently, I owned the fastest growing fitness franchise in Colorado called F45. I've sold that, and I can tell you, and that's a franchise, and I can tell you that all those experiences, Rodan and Fields is the best opportunity that is out there that we've been ever been involved in. And my piece of advice for you, what I'll tell you first, is what this business has done for us, it can also do for you, right? And you've heard from all these guys on what it's done for them. We can now focus on our faith. We can now focus on our family, focus on our fitness, focus on our finance. These are the 4 F's that Kim and I are always talking about. And we can focus on that, focus on the important things. You can be out of debt. You can have more charitable resources to be able to give to your church or to give to people in need. We have time freedom. We have financial freedom. I mean, when I'm talking about this stuff, I want you guys to think about what this would mean for you, because this is happening to everybody on this phone call. And it all means that we have more control over our lives. And that's what we want. Nobody's telling us what to do anymore. We have complete control on what we want to do and what we want to do with our days. And so my piece of advice, and I'm going to keep this short, my piece of advice for you guys is, this is a serious business. This has changed our lives. This can change your life. Don't blow this call off, okay? I want you to I'm all about return on investment. Make sure you're getting a return on this investment. You're spending an hour with us tonight. Make sure you just don't forget about it. Get your questions answered and jump right in. You can get the facts wherever you want to get the facts about Rodan and Fields. We're the #1 in the US. There's a lot of facts that these guys have gone through, but I want you to get started. If you're a guy on this call and you're ready to go, get started. If you've been asked to this call to support your wife, I would like you to support your wife. If she makes that decision, do what you need to do to help her be successful, like all of us have done. John and Josh, myself, and everybody that started this after their wives had started it, we're supporting our wives. We're doing what we need to do. We're making the necessary sacrifices to help grow this business until it gets to a point where some of us can be retired. So that's my advice. Don't be afraid. Go to it. And that's it for me. God bless you all. And now I'm going to introduce the man, the myth, the legend, Jonathan Watkins. Thanks, guys.
Well, thank you, Rick. Can y'all hear me? Thumbs up? No? All right, Jim got me there. Thanks, Rick. Well, the man, the myth, the legend, here I am. What an incredible introduction that is. Jim asked me earlier via text when I got on here, are you mad? Something wrong? Something wrong? I'm like, no, I'm just sitting outside in the South Carolina humidity and my shirt's sticking to me right now. So I've been out here. My wife's finishing up a Bible study inside, so she put me outside on the porch. So I'm out here sweating my rear end off. So hopefully you guys can put up with me for just a little bit of time. Our story's a little bit different than these guys. I mean, most of these guys are executives, right? So I'm going to put my title as executive police officer. I mean, we got doctors, attorneys, all these MBAs and everything else like that. I was just a police officer, right? So you'll hear a little bit more about that in a second. But over the years 2013 and 2014 is really where our story starts with Rodan and Fields. During that time frame, over 2013 and 2014, my wife Jody and I had committed to give over 40 to our local church that was starting a brand new location in Fredericksburg, Virginia. That was in addition to the 10% we already gave. So literally 53% of my police officer salary and 53% of her nursing salary went straight out the window to our church. And we wanted to fulfill that commitment because we really felt like that's what we were called to do. And that's kind of where Rodan and Fields stepped in, because I'll be honest with you guys, we were out of money. We didn't have money. We were eating canned goods every Friday and arguing with each other about, did we really commit what we should have committed to give? But during that time, we were also reading through a book called Living the Dream by Daniel Floyd. And that book really called you to try to fulfill your purpose in life, to find your purpose in life. And T.D. Jakes says it best: if you can't figure out your purpose, figure out your passion, for your passion will lead you right to your purpose. And we really felt like that we had a purpose on this planet. And so as we were thinking through this and reading through this book, we felt called to start a dog. Now, what does that have to do with fulfilling your purpose, Jonathan? And where does Rodan and Fields play into this? But we have 4 kids, and 2 adopted, 2 biological, but one of our kids has an intellectual disability. And we knew that as she got older, she would always be living with us, that she wouldn't have the opportunities that were afforded to more of the higher educated people, if you will. She was never going to be well educated. She struggles in school. She is an 11-year-old reading at a 1st grade level. So her intellectual capacity is very limited. And so we knew that we were going to have to take care of her for the rest of her life. And so the Rodan and Fields opportunity was presented to us, and we took off running from there. Honestly, we were looking for an extra $500 a month. That was our first initial goal, $500 extra a month. That would keep me from working overtime as a police officer and keep my wife from working overtime as a nurse. It would help us to pay all the bills, help us to fulfill that we made to our church, to get kind of a little bit ahead in life. But it became so much more. And in 2014, when things really started to get going for us in Rodan and Fields, we realized that we were dreaming too small because of what this opportunity was going to afford us. And we kept seeing it happen over and over again, like these guys have showed you tonight. Most of these guys have been in longer than me, and I was able to use their story to propel myself further in this business. And Jody and I both, we would use their stories to propel ourselves further. But what Rodan and Fields did for us was not only allow us to fulfill a dream that we had felt called to create a safe haven for Andy to work at as she got older, at this dog kennel, which we originally thought maybe 5-run dog kennel, just something for her to play with. But now it's turned into a reality. A 20-year dream turned into a 3-year reality through Rodan and Fields. We now own a 30-run dog boarding facility, training facility, and it's not just for Andy anymore. It was just to employ Andy as an intellectually disabled people. We actually have 4 individuals now that work up at the dog. Sorry, I got a internet connection is unstable. But we've got 4 intellectually disabled individuals that work up at the dog kennel every day with us. So it has not only allowed us to fulfill a dream and a purpose for Andy, our daughter, but has allowed us to fulfill a purpose for other intellectually disabled people. And that dream continues to grow. Not only are we have opened the dog kennel, but now we are opening a therapeutic horse riding farm for the intellectually disabled, for the wounded warrior, for the autistic child, for the mentally disabled, for the physically disabled. We're doing all those things with the help of Rodan and Fields. We are also in the process of getting together what's going to be a housing unit on our property that is going to house those with intellectually disabled people. And so Rodan and Fields' tagline is changing skin and changing lives. And you've heard a little bit about it. And Josh spoke earlier about speaking with our chairman and Amnon Rodan and their heart behind the mission of Rodan and Fields. And it's not just some cheesy tagline that they put out there. Literally, they're changing skin because, as Gabriel said, and as many others have said, the products work. They're not on, the doctors aren't on trial here. Everything is clinically proven to produce results for the masses. Okay, so everything works, but the love the most is that it's changing lives. And it's not just changing our life or Josh or John's or Gabriel's or Rick's or Jim or everybody. It's not just changing our lives. It's changing people's lives that have skin conditions that maybe couldn't hold their head up high and talk people face to face. We hear those stories all the time, but it's also changing the lives that people who are involved in Rodan and Fields are touching. And that's what this company is about. I can't stress to you enough the conversations that I've had personally with Dr. Rodan, Dr. Fields, and Amnon. They are fully into this, and they really want everyone to experience life change, whether it's through the skin, through the products, changing someone's skin freedom. And that's really what we've obtained here. And I was able to walk away from my job in 12 months. Can anybody beat that? I know my salary was probably a little lower than most of you guys, but hey, it worked. So I'm forever grateful for the opportunity. I won't take any more of your time, but I want you to pursue this. If you're on the call tonight and you've ever had questions, do what Gabriel says. And Gabriel was one of the ones that really helped me buy into this business. Turn off the opinions of the naysayers, because they won't pay your bills. They won't pay your bills for you. This can, and it can do so much more. It can cause you to dream so much bigger. I'm going to pass it off to the other John. John, you got it?
Yeah, I've got it there. Thank you so much for that call. I need to go right now, but I thought thank you, guys. I want to share that's Guinness, the book World Records. They said that we are setting a world record tonight for the most number of men that give a rat about skincare. And I am really proud to be a part of this call. So I'll get with them later to get our certificates and our awards that we can all hang. But everyone on this call is probably getting a little bit interested in skincare. But I mean, let's face it, as guys, did we grow up in the skincare world? No. And you know, I didn't care that much about it either, I have to say. My wife brought me into the business. I am been practicing as a dentist for 30 years. Grew up down in Lower Alabama, went to dental school in Birmingham, went and did a residency at Yale, was back down here in the South, setting up my practice. We rock and rolled for 30 years. And I don't know if you keep up with U.S. News and World Report, but hey, I must have been living the life, because dentists have ranked right up there with orthodontists for the top 2 professions for the last several years in a row. So maybe I'm able to give a little different perspective on that, because here I am in the #1 occupation in the US, and yet I still felt like there was something else that was better for our family. And so that's why I was so eager and ready to go when my wife came in and said, by the way, honey, we started a business 2 weeks ago, and it was with the doctors that created Proactive. So I can tell you that there were a lot of things that led up to me saying that I was ready to go at that time. You know, I think one thing I can say that we all have in common on this call is at one point in our life, we were all dreamers. And sometimes that dream got beaten out of us. For me, it was in dental school. We had to conform or we would not get through school. It was just that clear. But even going into dental school, I had still remained to be a dreamer about what I wanted out of my life. In fact, I remember walking across the campus to class with headphones on, what were they, Sony Walkman headphones on, walking to class, ignoring the rest of the world, but wondering who in the world set up the rules of the world that said we had to work 5 days and only get 2 days off on the weekend. That, as a 18-year-old, just didn't sound like a good way to live. Or I had another thought, and granted, these were naive, but I thought, wouldn't it be great if we could retire until we were 40 and then start working to pay off all that debt of retirement from 40 until we peeled away? But those were just me being a dreamer and a believer. And I lost that as I got to dental school, but I started to dream again when I got out of school, because first of all, I thought I had it made for sure. I mean, it's a decent living being a dentist. In fact, I'd like to think of it as one of the highest paid hourly employees, because you know what? It didn't matter that I had done all that education. I was still trading my time and money. So I had not done what I needed to do yet, which was figure out a way to have money and time work for me. And I was looking for that, especially after I went to play a round of golf with some buddies. And man, if you guys play golf and if you have a good group and you play with these guys that rib each other like my group ribs us, you're lucky to get a tee shot off without getting some sarcastic remark. Well, one day on a Friday, I'd taken off and I teed off. It was the 9th hole, it was a money hole. Teed off down the green, the fairway. The guys start ribbing because I hit a bit of a slice, and the next guy hit his. And the third guy said, well, you know, at least I'm here today. I might hit it just as bad as you guys do, but at least I'm getting paid to be here. And I thought that was interesting because, see, he was an insurance salesman. And the other guy in my group was a financial advisor. And so these guys had already figured out how to make time and money work for them. But yet I wasn't getting paid at all because I was just a paid employee. And so I have been looking for years to figure out how to get that passive income. And I got to tell you, maybe some of you listening to this call have done what many of us guys have done. You've listened to many of these guys. They've all had other businesses and careers. I was the same way. I had, as soon as I knew I needed to have passive income, I started a second dental practice. Well, that meant a whole lot of management to start running 2 practices instead of just one. I opened a brick and mortar store. I thought that we were going to be the next knockoff to Pier 1 Imports as we were importing furniture up from Mexico. So I got to experience what it's like to have a brick and mortar store. And then right before Rodan and Fields, we decided we were going to start another company for passive income with water filters. But my point of that is saying that all of those businesses, or many of those businesses, you have to be careful about when you're going to start a business. And so whether you are working for somebody now and looking for a change, don't necessarily jump at any business, because a lot of times you're just starting your own business. You're not going to trade your time and your money, and you're still going to be a slave to your business. So if there's one little tip of advice for someone that's been through a lot of businesses, I will tell you, take that part of leverage that we've been talking about. Just about every guy on here tonight has talked about leverage, and make sure that you factor that into your decision the next time you make a business decision. And probably the one other thing I can add to this that I haven't heard tonight is that we often talk about this business as being a plan B, and that there are benefits of having plan Bs. And obviously the thing about having a plan B is we don't know what tomorrow holds. And I can tell you for a fact that if my wife didn't have the wisdom to start this business and me enjoy working by her side, we would not have been able to tackle the financial struggles that we would have endured in the last 2 to 3 years. Because see, 3 years ago, I'm rocking and rolling at my practice, doing all sorts of surgeries and stuff. I show up one day, and by noon, I couldn't see out of my left eye. I couldn't believe it. No signs, no symptoms. Thought I had a little infection. Called my doc. The next day, I was in surgery because I had a detached retina. Now, that's fairly common for many people, and some people can heal normally. But unfortunately, mine didn't. So 3 years later, I'm still only practicing part-time. I've healed some, but I can't work the 8-hour days and the grind like I was before. And I sure didn't see that coming. So we don't know what our future holds. And so it's always good to have a plan B. I'm just here to be the testament to the plan B. And maybe that's my reason for being on this call, because so many people struggle from being paycheck to paycheck, and not everybody has the financial security that they want. So this may be that vehicle for you to look at. And the last thing I'll say about this, because I've given you a couple serious moments here, serious things to think about, but I can tell you without a doubt, of all the freedoms that I've heard all these gentlemen talk about, the one that we all enjoy is our freedom of purpose that we have never been able to fully fulfill. But I hear each of these guys, some of these guys, I've heard their stories for the first time tonight. Being able to fulfill your purpose, whatever that is, and not grind 40-hour weeks out somewhere is an unbelievable feeling. And I hope that you're still a dreamer enough to believe that that is something that you could reach out and grab if you want to. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to one of the most down-to-earth guys I know and let him share his experience. Here's Jim Larson for you.
All right. Well, good evening, guys. Just a thumbs up if y'all can hear me. Yes. Good to go. Sweet. Well, man, after hearing all those stories, it became really apparent to me why I was asked to go last. I think they were hoping that most of the audience would have maybe dissipated or started tuning out by the time I got on, so I wouldn't sound incompetent to a group of like 13,000 people. These guys have all achieved tremendous things, and I'm just over here like, hey, can someone grab me another Bud Light? And I'm actually not kidding. I was kind of hoping my wife or one of the other kids that might be up heard me yell that, but yes, no, doesn't look likely. Anyway, my name is Jim Larson, guys. I'm chatting with y'all live from Virginia. I may not have yet achieved everything that my counterparts tonight have, but it doesn't mean that R+F hasn't been amazing for our family, and certainly doesn't mean that I'm any less excited about its potential moving forward. See, 4.5 years ago, my wife and I were balancing a life with 3 young kids, alternating overnight shifts in the hospitals as RNs. I'm a cardiac surgery ICU nurse. She's a mother baby nurse. And we might go 8 days in a row without seeing each other. And even when we happened to be off together, one of us was coming off a night shift. If you guys work that overnight shift, you get what that like night shift hangover is. We were exhausted and pretty much worthless. So we were emotionally spent, financially just treading water, getting by, never getting ahead. And it's not like we were pushing through this hard season like dental school or medical school where, you know what, okay, as long as we push hard now, there's this light at the end of the tunnel. No, it was our life for the next 30 years. Just hope we save up enough money to retire before we died. And we didn't complain. We did what we had to do, put one foot in front of the other. But I can't pretend that we were having much fun, and I can't pretend we were fulfilled or happy. We were just kind of robots going through motions, and I'd look for other options. But honestly, for a guy like me, what was there? I mean, I wasn't creative enough to come up with some cool idea like importing furniture from Mexico to be the next Pier 1 Imports. I wasn't going to have this great idea that everyone was going to buy. I didn't know how to formulate cool supplements like John Newstat. I didn't have the financial capital even. So like, I couldn't do my own thing, maybe I could do a franchise, take someone else's idea and run, but I didn't have the financial capital to get a franchise up and running. Most franchises with any recognizable branding wanted a couple $100,000 in liquid capital. And I'm over here like, babe, we've got like $37. Like, what do you think we can get with that? So for us, moving ahead simply meant either decreasing our standard of living to kind of create more margin, or to just punch that clock again and again and put in more overtime away from our family. And you've heard that time with family being a really thick theme tonight in this thing, but that's where we were at. I mean, if we weren't punching the clock, we weren't getting paid. And so this is where R+F came in for us. I was actually at a bar downtown Fredericksburg, Virginia with Jonathan Watkins, who you heard from a few minutes ago, and his wife. And they had just become consultants with Rodan and Fields, and they leaned across the table to me and they're like, Jim, you and Sonia have got to do this with us. This is going to be huge. And I'd had a couple really good beers. It was one of those bars that had like 85 really good beers on tap. I had a couple of those and I was clearly sold. Like, we had to go do this. So I run home to tell my wife, and I bust through the door, and there she is, pregnant with our 3rd kid, and she's sweating, and dinner's burning on the stove, and dog's peeing on the floor. One kid's crying about something. Some other kid's coloring Sharpie on the wall. And I bust through the door like, babe, I totally want to add more to your plate right now. And you can imagine how well that went over. She gave me that like, dear God, tuck tail and run kind of look. And I knew that looked pretty well. So I figured I would leave this alone for a little while. But in reality, see, I was insecure and I wasn't brave enough to take this thing and run with it like Gabe. I knew that I was going to need her if we were going to do this together. And so she looked at me crazy when we started talking about it. And she's like, Jim, we barely see each other now. We're exhausted. We've got another kid coming. We can barely keep up with the two we have. Like, how do you possibly think we could add something more to our plate? She's like, we're not salespeople. We're nurses. We don't. She's like, at 28 years old, like, I don't even use skincare. She's like, you don't use skincare. You're a guy. You've never cared about skincare in your life. Like, this might be great for other people, but it's not going to be great for us. So we said no. I went back to Jonathan and Jody and I was like, guys, no, like this isn't going to work for us. But what we did was watch them. And he told you how he got to leave his job in like 12 months. So clearly we watched that. We're like, oh, well, you know what? All right. We might not be able to achieve everything they did, but I can do some basic math. And like, if we even got to like 10% of that, like, I feel like that would be all right. And so that was our mindset going in, guys. Like, seriously, we just wanted a house cleaner to help keep up with those tasky things. But 15 months in, we were able to bring Sonia home from her job. And at 24 months in, I was able to leave mine as we'd replaced both of our incomes. And now we're 2 years down the road being home full time together as a family of 5, waking up every morning with that haunting question like, hey, babe, what do you want to go do today? And I'll tell you, there's nothing like that, especially coming from the place we had come from. And, you know, to be honest, coming in, if you're listening to this call and you're like, man, these guys have all been in business for a long, long time. Maybe it's about when you get in or anything like that. I'll tell you guys, I was the same way and I was insecure and I didn't think we'd achieve much. I looked at all of the successful people, a lot of the guys on the call tonight, and figured we'd never get to where they were, that maybe they were lucky or maybe they were smarter than me or maybe they were a lot of other things. And again, I mentioned we were just hopeful to hire that house cleaner. But what this proved to be was so tremendous because, like Gabe mentioned earlier, the systems are in place that you don't have to come in and be an expert in anything. The systems are in place for you to simply come in and put one foot in front of the other. Now, I don't know what you tuned in hoping to hear tonight, but I hope you walk out of here realizing that whether you're desperate to move ahead and completely stuck without options like me, or you catch a vision for building residual income in a smart business model like Gabe or John Newstat, that this is a powerful vehicle that can move you forward on the back of a product with proven consumer demand and the brand recognition that would cost hundreds of thousands to start in any other distribution model. Maybe you just need to fund a dream like Jonathan Watkins, and you're looking for a stream of income to fast track that. Maybe you're approaching retirement and wondering if a passive income stream might be a good addition to your portfolio. I don't know what brought you on tonight, but I do know that saying no is easy. Saying no doesn't cost you a thing, and you can go right along on your merry way. But that reason you tuned in, that thing you want that's been eluding you and haunting you, you know, that thing, it needs a vehicle. And saying no doesn't give your dream a vehicle. You can say no and walk away, or you can say yes and empower your dream. Each of us found R+F to be a powerful vehicle to take us where we wanted to go. And in a lot of cases, much farther than we ever dreamed that it would go. We'd love to hear that you decided to jump in and join the consultant that invited you. You'll be joining a community of people and a culture that's ready to link arms with you, to support you, celebrate you, and honestly just help you kick ass. Your dream is freaking worth it, man. Stop keeping it on the sideline. So thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Have an amazing evening. Don't hesitate to reach out to the consultant who invited you if you have any questions at all. And we are officially just over an hour and done. So thanks, guys, again so much for hanging out.